Coming up next, an interview with a band that got into music because of the Beatles. Then in the 1980s, they quietly equaled them with so many hits, they had a greatest hits album 3 years into their career. When they started out, they were so poor, they were couch diving to find change just to eat. But a few years later, their first 7 singles hit the top 5 on the charts, including today's hit that was written and produced by an underrated artist who had the number 1 and number 2 songs on the charts at the same time by 2 different artists. Thing is, both these songs sounded pretty similar. Was it the same song with different lyrics? You tell me. The interview and the story is coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you grew up in the 70s and the 80s and you were raised on radio and MTV and the like, you're going to love this channel. The story straight from the artists, we're trying to get interviews to get it straight from them. Make sure that you subscribe right now and click the bell so that you're always in the know. We also have a Patreon. You're going to want to check that out. We have more content. We also make an honorary producer. That helps us keep this a daily channel. It's the best way to support us. So it's time for another edition of Number One in Our Hearts. This is a show that honors songs that were so unbelievably great. They absolutely should have been number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. But for whatever reason, be it radio play, label support, lack of marketing, or just sheer stupidity, the song came up short. Today, we're going to cover a song that got as close as a song can get. The runner-up spot, The Bridesmaid, The Close But No Cigar, the number 2. It actually spent 3 weeks behind a song that curiously was written and produced by the same man as them, the late great Jim Steinman. He wrote and produced the song Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler. She killed it with one of the biggest hits of that year.
Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart.
And they'd have to settle for number 2. Jim Steinman also wrote and produced the number 2 hit, Air Supply's Making Love Out of Nothing at All.
Out of nothing at all.
That also climbed the charts rapidly, but it got shut out of number 1 by a song that had a lot of similarities. Graham Russell and Russell Hitchcock of Air Supply were riding high in '83. I mean, they had just put together one of the most successful run of hits in the rock era. 8 top 5 hits in less than 3 years, 7 top 5s in a row. The only artists like that had a run like that, there were very few, the Beatles being one of them. It all started with the tall Englishman, Graham Russell, who was a poet, a composer, and singer. And he met the shy Australian Russell Hitchcock when they were part of the Australian production of Jesus Christ Superstar. Russell Hitchcock had this very rich and sprawling tenor voice. And it wasn't being used by the director. The director didn't even know he had it. Graham actually approached the director of the show and he told him that his buddy had a great voice and he was missing out on the best singer in the whole production. Naturally, Graham and Russell bonded over their love for the Beatles, and they formed a harmony group. Their first hit in Australia was a song called Love and Other Bruises that was written by Graham.
Love and other bruises.
And from there, the buzz really started. That was a hit. They had a few others in Australia. They were actually invited to open for Rod Stewart on a national tour. And when that was over, they thought that when they flew home, to Australia, their homeland, they would receive a hero's welcome. They thought there'd be people screaming there when they got off the plane, but no one was there. The next few singles that they had tanked, and they thought that maybe they were done. They were destitute. It got so bad at that time that they were so poor, they had to rummage through the couch to find loose change in order to buy some food. These were tough times. But then Graham wrote the hit that would put them on the map for good across the world, Lost in Love.
Lost in love and don't know much.
Graham wrote it in only about 15 minutes, and the rest is history. Legendary record man Clive Davis heard the song, and he knew that this band would rise to the challenge. Boy, did they ever. They would follow up Lost in Love, which went to number 2, with 7 top 5 singles, matching their idols, the Beatles. In fact, they had so many hits in those first couple of years, they had to put out a greatest hits record 3 years into their career. How many people could say that? As they were putting together this greatest hits album, they knew that they needed some new material, so Making Love Out of Nothing at All became part of that record.
Out of nothing at all.
Now, it was rumored that Jim Steinman wrote both Making Love Out of Nothing at All and Total Eclipse of the Heart, that he wrote those for Meatloaf, his longtime collaborator. And the rumor was that Meatloaf wasn't able to record it due to a label dispute that they had with Steinman. But decades after the fact, Jim Steinman said that he'd always written Total Eclipse of the Heart with Bonnie Tyler in mind. It's not clear on Making Love Out of Nothing at All exactly what happened there. Graham and Russell, I asked them about it, and they didn't really know. But most of the time, Graham Russell wrote the songs for Air Supply, including most of their hits. But the approach that Graham and Russell took on Making Love Out of Nothing at All, including Russell Hitchcock's phenomenal vocal turns. It took a beautiful, heartfelt love song and turned it into a full-fledged stadium rocking anthem. It makes the song Air Supply's Alone. In fact, the story is that when they were in the studio recording it, Russell Hitchcock recorded it in just one take. Now, when he was finished with that first take, everyone there was just blown away. And I think it was one of their engineers that said, "What do we do next?" And Russell replied, "We go home." Up next, both Graham and Russell tell us the story of Making Love Out of Nothing at All, including their reaction when Brad Pitt sang it in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Great movie moment for sure. As we go into this interview, I want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear. The glasses I always rock. They support our mission of keeping the music alive. I love these glasses. Here's a cool addition to Zenni. If you're in a pinch and you need glasses right away, Zenni now has you covered. They just started a new program called Fast Frame where you can order single vision glasses today and you can get them in 3 to 5 business days. Go to Zenni.com right now to see for yourself. Here's Graham and Russell of Air Supply with the story.
Making love out of nothing.
Making Love Out of Nothing at All. Another massive, massive song. Number 2 for 3 weeks. And it's such an interesting history of that song because Jim Steinman, he offered that and Total Eclipse of the Heart to Meatloaf, but Meatloaf's label didn't want to work with Steinman. Of course, Bonnie Tyler has a number 1 hit.
A total eclipse of the heart.
And at the time, you guys were number 1 and number 2.
Yeah.
It was Bonnie Tyler at number 1. You guys were at number 2.
Yeah, I remember
Monsters.
we were in our manager's office at the Jet office, and Jim Steinman called the office, and he called Don, and I got on the phone with him, and I said, "Hey, Jim, what's going on? You got number 1 and number 2. I said, you need to get Bonnie Tyler out of there so we can get to number 1. But it didn't happen. But what a great thing.
And she later recorded it too.
Yeah.
Making love out of nothing at all.
She loved you guys' version. I remember reading an interview about that.
Yeah.
And I always read it was a reworking of a main title from a film
Right.
that Jim did, Small Circle of Friends.
A small circle of friends.
Let's talk about the recording of that one. Roy Bittan and Max Weinberg from the E Street Band recorded on it, and Rick Derringer, of course. And a lot of people don't realize that he sang lead vocals on Hang On Sloopy.
Oh, that's right. He did, yeah.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, Rick Danger.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he played the chorus of guitar on it, and it's such a lavish production. I mean, it's kind of like you guys meeting Queen in the middle a little bit.
It was a different sound for us. You know, Clive was all over it, and he heard what it could be, and he put us together with Jim. It was a great pairing, It was obviously Russell was going to sing it, and it just caught fire straight away. It just happened really fast.
And it sounds like, though it is a little bit different, it sounds totally like Air Supply. I mean, you hear the piano part.
The piano thing,
dun, dun, the melody.
Yeah, oh, it's beautiful.
And then you come in, and they're very poetic, too. It reminds me of the type of lyrics you write.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of my
I know
vibe
just
too.
where to touch you, know just what to prove.
And I know just where to touch you.
And the way you sing it, too, it's like Sinatra. It's a song that Sinatra could have sang. It kind of has that aching, like the saloon songs that you used to sing back in the day, And the way you sing it, you're just kind of bearing your soul. I mean, there's two parts to a song, right? There's the writing of it, and then there's the interpretation. And the way you guys interpreted that,
Oh, it's definitely our song, yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
your song.
I mean, but in the same area, I mean, I don't know how many people think that Harry Nilsson wrote
Without You,
and of course he didn't.
Yeah.
when you were recording it, did you know, like, yeah, this is going to be a hit?
I think we knew when we were doing it.
I mean, I said to Graham when I heard, I told him Lost in Love was going to be a hit, and The One That You Love certainly, and All Out of Love. I said these are hits. There's no doubt about that. And we felt the same way about Making Love. Plus, you're surrounded by guys from Bruce Springsteen's band and Jim Steinman, obviously his history with Meatloaf. So, that it had all the right ingredients to be a hit.
It had the magic.
Yeah, it did too. Yeah.
And then, of course, the chorus, how you guys come together, na 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 na, it's just amazing. And I also like the football analogy. Runner stumble, I can make the final block. I can make all the stadiums rock.
Yeah. Oh, it's typical Steinman.
The other thing that was so memorable was the video. And of course, your wife was in the video.
She was, yeah. Yeah. She wasn't my wife then, but she became my wife.
And it was a very story song because you're kind of taking off on tour and kind of puts together a really nice backstory for the song.
Yeah.
But it's just one more tour, then I'll be back.
But I won't. I can't.
I always remember watching that.
Interesting video.
Yeah.
It proved that I can't act.
Well,
That's for sure.
me too. We hate seeing ourselves on video,
Oh, yeah.
I think a lot of musicians do. You look so hammy,
Because MTV, it kind of came at a time where people weren't really ready for, now I got to do a music video too.
Yeah,
it kind of takes away a little bit from the song because then you've got the visual with it too. So it can be good and bad.
Well, it's like when you read a book and you see the movie and it's, I didn't think that guy was going to be that guy, or you know what I mean?
And also, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think about that when you saw Brad Pitt?
That was cool.
That was awesome. I was driving in Los Angeles, and my daughter, who was in her teens, she called me and I said, and she sounded like anxious or excited. I go, "You okay?" And she goes, "Dad, Brad Pitt's singing your song." I go, "What do you mean?" Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And it went on forever in the movie, 3 or 4 minutes, which rarely happens, Big thrill.
I would have to go back and look at the history of that, but I don't think that was scripted. It almost like he was singing along as they were filming it.
It did. It looked very ad-libby, didn't it?
It did.
You know what was great too? I felt when he started to sing it and she said something like, not derogatory, but like took a jab at us. And he kind of said, "Well, I like Air Supply. Like it was okay to dig our music."
I like it. Deal with it.
And it's been used a lot of other times, like Click and Dumb and Dumber when Harry met Lloyd and Criminal Minds. I remember watching it and it was like a clue to part of the mystery.
Oh, is that right?
They're getting that mixed up with the Bonnie Tyler song and they're trying to remember in the crime, like what took place. And of course, the Goldbergs, which is a huge comedy.
And just as Steve Gutenberg had to move on from the Police Academy franchise, I too must move on.
That's
Carrie Underwood, though, covered it.
Yeah, she sang it on
She did on American Idol. Yeah.
I love you guys' acoustic version on the Singer and the Song.
Oh, yeah. It's pretty cool. When we did the Singer and the Song, that was one song we thought, God, I don't know if that's going to work because it's such an epic piano song. But I think it worked,
It does, and once again, if it's a great song, if you play it with a wobble board and
a boomerang,
a thing, a Jew's harp, it's a great song.
Yeah.
So when we paired all those songs down to just acoustic guitar and vocals, it just showed the strength of the song.
What's it like singing it live now? Because you're probably looking out in the audience and seeing thousands of people singing the same words. And
it's that exact thing. I mean, I never tire of singing that, and we never get tired of playing it. But to see people's response to the song, and especially generations are in the audience these days. Everybody knows it and everybody sings it. We can go overseas and, we play in Beirut or Vietnam. People sing it even even in some countries where English isn't their primary language. Everybody knows the song, and it's fantastic.
Incredible. Probably been some people who learn English from the songs.
A lot of them do. When we first went to Japan, there was a lot of the fans, they couldn't speak English, and they would say in broken Japanese, they say, we learned English so we could understand the song. But a lot of them, and
I love it.
it's very humbling, very humbling. I'm most grateful for being here right now after 42 years. A lot of people don't get that privilege to be in a band for this long and to tour at a very high level and to still have people want to see you selling out venues. That's a great accomplishment, I think.
To think when we started, we said, wouldn't it be great if we had a hit song in Australia and we could get, maybe do a couple of albums and stick around for 3 or 4 years. Now it's 42 years and counting, and it's because of and I said this before in the interview, it's because of the songs. If you don't have the songs, you don't have anything. When you have such incredible fans as we've had that continue to spread the word to their children and their friends or their kids, it's amazing,
Jim Steinman was at number 1 and number 2 at the same time. Both these songs written by Jim Steinman, like I said. Many have claimed, though, it's the same song with different lyrics. What do you think?
Making love out of nothing at all. There's nothing I can do. A total eclipse of the heart.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Make sure to leave us a comment about this power ballad extraordinaire, one of the greatest songs of the 80s. What are your memories of this ditty? What are your thoughts on the greatest love song band this side of Chicago? Let us know in the comments below. And make sure to check us out on Patreon. Check out our merch. I'm wearing this Professor of Rock shirt. All of this helps us keep the music alive. That's the idea. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends. Talk to you soon.